I'm Eileen. Standing in that courtroom, with the weight of a lifetime of emotions hanging in the air, I watched as my so-called mother, Brenda, now transformed from a once composed figure into a blubbering mess. Her words, a concoction of lies and greed, still rang in my ears like a cruel symphony. It was a sunny Wednesday in the courthouse of Ennis. The air was thick with anticipation as the case unfolded. My adoptive family, the Johnsons, had flown across the ocean to try and claim a fortune that rightfully belonged to me. Brenda, now looking haggard and desperate, had the audacity to stand before the judge and say, "Your Honor, this young woman was never truly one of us. She latched onto a sick, old woman and stole what was rightfully ours." The irony of her words was not lost on me. I remembered the day 12 years ago when she placed a one-way ticket into my hand on Christmas Eve. I was just 16 then, a confused and scared girl. My so-called family consists of my cold-hearted father, Albert, my indifferent sister, Lucy, and Brenda, who claimed they were doing it for my own good. "Your real family is waiting," Brenda had said, her eyes not even meeting mine as she checked her watch impatiently. "You were never ours." And with that, she walked through the sliding doors of the airport, leaving me there with a single suitcase and a thin envelope. I arrived at Shannon Airport, tired and jet-lagged, clutching the slip of paper with the name Agnes O'Connor on it. Agnes was a strong-looking woman, around 65 years old, with a face that showed a lifetime of hard work on her small farm in County Clare. She met me with a nod, sized me up, and then simply said, "You've got your mother's chin." We drove to her farm, a place called Rosewood Farm that was in desperate need of repair. The roof leaked, the barn door hung precariously, and everywhere there were signs of financial struggle. Inside, she placed a bowl of porridge in front of me and a list of chores. "You'll work. You'll eat. You'll stay. That's that," she stated firmly. Over the next few weeks, I learned more about my past. My real mother, Rose, had been Agnes's daughter. She passed away when I was just a baby, and since Agnes was a widow with a failing farm and uncertain health, she sent me to America through an arrangement with the Johnsons. One night, as Agnes scrubbed a pot more vigorously than necessary, she mentioned papers and money. When I pressed her for answers, she was as stubborn as a mule. "I'll tell you the rest when you're older, and it'll do you less harm," she said. That night, I lay awake, thinking about those mysterious words. Did the Johnsons adopt me out of kindness, or was there a darker truth? As the years went by, I didn't let the circumstances defeat me. At 17, I learned to drive a tractor, and at 18, I could stitch a sheep's wound. I completed my schooling at the local convent with excellent grades. One day, when Agnes's neighbor had an accident, I decided that I wanted to be a nurse. I trained hard for 4 years, taking early morning buses and studying at the kitchen table while Agnes worked on the farm accounts. By the time I was 23, I had become a district nurse, well known and trusted in the valley. I drove the back roads, dressing wounds and taking care of the elderly. People here had come to rely on me, and I felt a sense of belonging I had never experienced before. Around this time, things started to change for Rosewood Farm. A wind company came to survey the high field and offered a lease. The county also rezoned the lower 40 acres for development. The farm, which had once been on the verge of bankruptcy, was now worth a staggering €23 million. Agnes, who was more concerned about the leaky roof being fixed than the money itself, warned me, "Eileen, once there's a number on this place, vultures will come." I didn't fully understand her then, but I soon would. When I was 27, after 11 years of silence, I received a call from Brenda. She was overly warm, asking about my well-being and how Agnes was. Then, almost as an afterthought, she asked about the farm. "We saw something about wind turbines online. Big money in that, I hear," she said. I gave her a non-committal answer, but I knew then that something was wrong. That following autumn, the formal valuation arrived in a large envelope. The figure was mind-boggling. Agnes, though, remained calm. "It's just land," she said, but I could see the tightness in her jaw when she talked about the money. She warned me that when she was gone, the farm would attract people, and I needed to stay strong. Not long after, Agnes got sick. As a nurse, I could tell from the start how serious it was. I took care of her at home, keeping detailed records of her condition. 3 weeks before she died, with her solicitor, Mr. Fitzpatrick, and 2 neighbors as witnesses, Agnes signed her will one last time. Then, she sent everyone out except me. She took my hand, something she rarely did, and said, "When they come, and they will, you don't shout. You don't beg. You open the box." I knew which box she meant. It was the battered tin box on the high shelf behind the good plates, the one I had dusted countless times but never opened. I promised her I would wait until the right time. Agnes passed away on a Tuesday morning. It was the hardest moment of my life, even more so than the day I was abandoned at the airport. She had chosen me, and now she was gone. A week after the funeral, Mr. Fitzpatrick called me into his office. He told me that Agnes had left clear instructions. I was her sole heir, but there was also a sealed envelope and the box at home that were to be opened together if there was trouble. The trouble arrived soon enough. A firm in Dublin filed papers on behalf of the Johnsons, contesting Agnes's entire €23 million estate. They claimed that I had exerted undue influence over a vulnerable elderly woman and that they were owed compensation for raising me for 16 years. I didn't panic. Agnes had raised a strong-willed nurse, and I knew how to make a plan. I called Mr. Fitzpatrick and asked for certified copies of the will and witness statements. I visited Dr. Murphy, who had treated Agnes, and she provided a written statement confirming that Agnes had a clear mind when she signed the will. I also gathered 12 years' worth of records, including my nursing logs and the farm accounts, showing that I had worked hard to build the farm up. The Johnsons arrived in town on a Friday, the same day of the week they had put me on the plane all those years ago. We met at a hotel, with both solicitors present. Brenda, trying to appear elegant, greeted me with false warmth. "Eileen, look at you. We've missed you so much," she said, opening her arms. I didn't take the hug. I sat down and said, "Let's drop the act. Say what you came to say." Vanessa, my so-called sister, wasted no time. "You walked into a sick old woman's house and walked out with millions. That money is as much ours as hers. We raised you," she declared. They also brought in a local man, Mr. Sullivan, a distant cousin of Agnes who had always resented her. He started spreading lies around town, saying that I had isolated Agnes from her family. People who had once trusted me began to doubt. But I remembered Agnes's words, "You don't shout." So, I kept making my house calls, letting my work speak for itself. Meanwhile, I couldn't shake the feeling that the time to open the box was approaching. One Monday morning before my first call, I finally took the tin box down from the shelf. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside was a letter from Agnes. "Eileen, they told you that you were never theirs. The truth is worse and better. You were sold, and I bought you back," it read. Underneath the letter was a signed agreement between the Johnsons and a solicitor acting for Agnes, dated the December I turned 16. In it, the Johnsons relinquished all rights to me. There was also a wire transfer record, showing that Agnes had paid the Johnsons $40,000 that month. I was shocked. All these years, I had thought they had given me away out of some misguided sense of duty, but they had been paid to get rid of me. I brought these documents to Mr. Fitzpatrick, and we began to work on making the evidence bulletproof. The Johnsons' solicitor tried to object and run out the clock, but we persevered. As the hearing date neared, the Johnsons increased their smear campaign. Brenda gave an interview to a local paper, painting them as the grieving family being frozen out by me. Vanessa told people at the hotel bar and coffee shop that I had always been cold and greedy. But their stories started to fall apart. Their claims didn't match the facts. I knew it was time for the truth to come out in the courtroom. The night before the hearing, I thought about Agnes and her wisdom. I had all the evidence I needed to completely destroy the Johnsons' reputation, but I decided that I would use only as much truth as it took to protect what Agnes had built. As the hearing began, the Johnsons' solicitor painted a picture of a devoted family who had been wronged. Gerald, my so-called father, sat with his head down, avoiding my gaze. But there was a moment when his eyes met mine, and I saw a flash of shame. Then Brenda stood up. All the grief and pretense vanished from her face, replaced by cold malice. Your Honor, this young woman was never one of us. She was a burden we took in out of kindness, and now she's stolen from us, she said. That was when I knew it was time to respond. I stood up, my voice steady. Your Honor, may I respond with documents rather than feelings? My grandmother taught me they hold up better. I presented the evidence one by one. The will, the medical statement, my nursing logs, and the DNA confirmation that I was Agnes's blood relative. Then, I reached for the last tab. I addressed Brenda directly. You claim a debt of care. But in December of the year I turned 16, you signed an agreement relinquishing all rights to me, and you were paid $40,000 for it. You were paid to let me go, and you cashed the check. The room fell silent. Brenda's face turned red, and she started to rant. That money was supposed to disappear. Do you know what we gave up for you? She cried. Vanessa tried to defend her, but it was too late. Gerald just buried his head in his hands. The judge looked over the evidence and then made his ruling. The will was valid, the claim of undue influence was baseless, and the Johnsons had no blood relation to Agnes. The claim was dismissed in full, and the entire €23 million estate was confirmed to me. The judge also awarded costs against the Johnsons. The Johnsons flew home the next day, defeated. Lucy blocked my number, which didn't bother me at all. Mr. Sullivan found the town a less welcoming place, and he soon moved away. Albert sent me a letter, but it was a half-hearted apology that never really addressed the truth. I didn't write back. The money hasn't changed me as much as people might think. I'm still a district nurse, driving the back roads to take care of the people here. I used a part of the money to set up a community nursing fund in Agnes's name, the Rose and Agnes O'Connor Trust. It's my way of giving back to the community that has accepted me. I've learned that my worth is not determined by the people who once threw me away. The only signature that matters on me is my own. And I'll never let anyone else tell me what I'm worth. If you've ever been handed a one-way ticket out of someone's so-called love, remember this: your worth was never theirs to price.